Well, she spent 3 seasons as head coach of the Butler women's soccer team, and with her team 4-5 on the season, she'll look for a good start for her team going into conference play on Friday. Coach Terry St. John joins us, and Coach, welcome to the Butler Bulldog Blitz, I should say. How are you?
Good, great to be here. Thanks, Corey.
And Coach, 4-5 on the season as of right now. Played some big conference schools, Louisville, Missouri, Indiana, just played them. What's been the most encouraging thing you've seen so far from your team?
I think the resilience to be able to come back from games where things don't quite go your way, to be able to dissect that game, take as much out of it, and then go on to the next game and kind of learn from those type of games. So we've been able to do that a couple times, and then go on and get a couple good wins after.
And maybe you talk about getting some good wins after back-to-back games, Western Kentucky, Western Carolina. Those aren't maybe games that we don't think about. But after that, 2 big wins in shutout victories. Kind of what did you learn from your team in that kind of scenario of losing those 2 games in double overtime and then going and winning those 2 next games?
You know, we're a pretty young team. We don't have a senior out on the field for us. And I think those first 2 games, the overtime losses, double overtime losses, we could learn so much, and not so much as tactical adjustments, things like that, but just what it takes to be able to compete and complete a game. And I think that's what you saw when we played St. Louis and IU, is being able to play at an entire game at that intensity.
13 freshmen and sophomores on the roster. You know, what do you continue to emphasize in practice with them just to mature this group?
You know, I think it just starts with hard work. That's kind of one of the principles that how we recruit players. And once you kind of have a culture of hard work, it's so much easier it fosters itself, and it's so much easier to add in tactical type of decisions and things like that, because you can't teach hard work. And lucky for us, you know, you say how young we are, but again, they're incredibly resourceful and resilient, and they work hard. And you know, I'm sure we'll talk about, but when you play big teams, they don't know any different. They don't know if they're supposed to win or lose. So that's the other fun part about having a young team.
You have so many teams in the area that compete for recruits. Purdue, which you're familiar with, the assistant coach there. Indiana. What is the key kind of as recruiting goes, just to get the top recruits to come to Butler?
Butler's a great sell. I mean, I think that's, you know, why we're able to compete with some of these bigger schools, and as our program gets better and better, it's a pretty nice place to recruit. The academic reputation, the campus, as we all know, is beautiful, and again, the better that we get as a program, the more we'll be able to attract those players.
And last game against Illinois State, you said your team played poorly. What has been just the emphasis so far this week in order to get you ready for Valparaiso on Friday? I
think the biggest thing for me to instill in the team is that we can't dwell on it. It does no good to just sit there and be like, I can't believe we lost. This is a game we shouldn't have lost. We just beat IU. How could we lose? The important thing for us is to figure out what went wrong and then move on. And based on yesterday's training, I think they've moved on, which is a good sign.
I'm going to do something kind of fun here. I'm going to call it, in your instance, penalty shots. You don't have too many times to react to these shots that I'm going to be giving you. Favorite sport other than soccer?
Oh, basketball.
Basketball. Okay. Being from Wisconsin, what is the coldest soccer game you have ever played in? Anything you remember?
Definitely a high school game, because they have us out there playing in like March, and you know, that's when you get excused for wearing the leggings underneath your shin guards and shorts. Rarely seen in below Wisconsin, but yeah, so it was a high school game.
In your collegiate years of playing at Purdue, team you most enjoyed playing?
Most enjoyed playing? I enjoyed playing IU because more times than not, we would beat them. So that was a pretty fun game.
A little in-state rivalry there, too. Okay, more Purdue action. Who wins in a basketball matchup, Boilers or Bulldogs?
Oh, the Bulldogs.
Okay.
The Bulldogs, of course.
All right, all right. That's probably the easiest question I've asked so far. All right, and one that maybe not being so easy. team goal for the rest of the season?
You know, I think that's multifaceted. You know, we want to get better every day, and you know, not just to be able to say that, but to live that and carry that out. And so far, I think, you know, you got to accept in the game of soccer that you do take some step backs once in a while, like we did against Illinois State. But I think, bottom line, we just want to get better. We want to work harder. We want to get stronger. And mentality-wise, we want that to grow a little bit more too, to where we have a winning attitude, where we go into games deserving to win the game.
Well, Coach, you did a great job on those penalty shots. Once again, thank you, Coach Terry St. John. Again, the women's soccer team will start their Horizon League season this Friday against Valparaiso. Start time 4:30 p.m. in the Butler Bowl. Once again, Coach, thanks.
Thanks, Paul.
We'll be back. Butler's cross-country team continues to run their way to the top with a good showing at the Indiana Intercollegiate Meet at Indiana University last week. The Butler's men's team finished 5th, and the women's team took 2nd place. Leading the way for the men was redshirt sophomore Justin Roeder, who placed in the top 10 with a time of 25 minutes and 37 seconds in the 8K. On the women's side, it was junior Mary Beth Scheel, finishing 11th place with a time of 18 minutes and 47 seconds in the 5K. The men's team will travel to the Roy Griak Invitational in Minneapolis, Minnesota this weekend. Bulldog basketball fans, it's time to get your tickets. The men's and women's basketball schedules were released for the 2008-2009 campaigns. On the men's side, there was non-conference schedule is a tough one with big games on the road. They'll play the likes of Drake University, Xavier, Ohio State, and Bradley all on the road. Plus, the always much anticipated bracket buster game will be away from Hinkle Fieldhouse this season. Non-conference games at home include University of Alabama Birmingham and Northwestern. The team will play their first 4 games at home, but they will go on the road for the first Horizon League game against league favorite Cleveland State. On the women's side, they too have a very challenging schedule. How about this for the start of the season? They'll play at Ohio State for their very first game. Other non-conference games include Dayton at home and Indiana. The women won't start their conference season play until 2009 when they play Cleveland State at Hinkle Fieldhouse on January 3rd. A lot of sports action this weekend for Bulldog teams, but it will be slim pickings for action here at home. As mentioned, the women's soccer team will be home Friday against Valparaiso and again on Sunday against Youngstown State. Also, the Butler baseball team will play at the University of Indianapolis on Saturday. That does it for this week's show. Be sure to tune in next week for more Bulldog action. Until then, I'm Corey Stark, and this has been the Bulldog Blitz.